This time on Finnegan's Garage, transmission swapping the redneck limo. That's right, we're going from 3 speeds to 4 speeds with overdrive and a lockup converter because clearly I care about the fuel economy. Uh-oh. Bought another Square Body. I did tell my wife about this one. You guys are going to love it. Nobody needs this in their lives. I know that. But it's a redneck limo, like an actual redneck limo. This is a 1986 Chevrolet truck that somebody, I don't know who, stretched it. And it's a legit limo inside. And this truck, believe it or not, was used to haul an enclosed trailer with another Square Body inside, a show truck. And this thing was once really beautiful. And I gotta be honest, even now, this thing is clean. Like, that bed is not dented. I bought it from the dudes at Hot Rod Ranch because, of course, they had all the good stuff. They always do. And then I took it with Freiberger on a road trip for an episode of Roadkill. And we road tripped this thing all over Central California. And that's a table, yes. I ate a steak dinner in the back of this. And it needs some love. You know, it was stretched and some of the body work is starting to crack out on it. You know, we've got a little roof is peeling. Let's be clear. Nobody needs one of these. You know, unless maybe you're in Texas and you want to start a limo service for high school proms. Maybe the sons and daughters of, you know, truck enthusiasts might want to rent one of these. But in general, you don't need one of these. But it's just so damn cool. Like, legit. And the way it was done, it really interests me. They stretched it about 3.5, 4 feet right here in the middle. They welded 2 doors together, I think. And the really crazy part is, when I bought this, I was sitting inside of it and I thought, that's so weird. It looks like that's a functioning door. And there's no interior door handle. There's no exterior door handle. So that would lead me to believe this is not a functioning door. But it really looks like it could be. Like, there's weather stripping, right? And so I really started looking around at this thing and I was like, oh, that's cool. That's a nice chest. It's got speakers. If you look between the 2 seats here, there's a vent hose going into it from an AC system. This thing's really cool. But I just couldn't get over the fact that this looked like this door should open. And so we pulled out this piece here, looked in there, and found the door latch mechanism was intact. Okay, go for it. Oh, it's official. She's a 6 door. What do you think, Wiley?
So sweet. Party machine.
For a second, I thought it was only going to be a 5 door, but then we got the other side open. That's all right. We don't need those wires. I'd much rather have the door open than wires.
All right, here we go.
Yeah.
Ready?
The big reveal. I don't think those doors have ever been open.
Not for a long time, that's for sure.
Dude, that's so cool. Look, Freiberger. Look at that.
6 doors. 6 door.
I'm just going to drive down the street with all the doors open.
Oh, let's lose that.
Flexing.
Yeah, there's PB blaster. Where?
And what they did was they made this a fully functioning door, and then they put a drywall screw through a piece of sheet metal to disable the latch so you couldn't open it. So during the Roadkill shoot, myself and the dudes from Hot Rod Ranch, I think it was just Gil and I, took that apart, took the screw out, and got these doors to open. And I thought, that is so cool. But then I was like, well, it's a limo. Limos usually only have, you know, doors in the back and then a door up front for the driver and a partition between them. Like, I guess you really don't need that door to work. And it does kind of look weird, you know, the fact that it doesn't have a door handle. But if you were to put a door handle back in this thing, it wouldn't be centered. It would be kind of offset. It would be, you know, right here where the factory door handle would be to operate the latch mechanism, which is right there. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Would you make that door fully functional from the outside again? Because it is. And again, like I said, look, there's the hinges. Like, they went through a lot of trouble to make this function, and then they disabled it. It's interesting. Would you make it functional? That's what I want to know. Here's the HVAC setup I was telling you about. The interesting thing about this truck is that at one point it was sold, and after it was done hauling a show truck everywhere, this thing was used to ferry passengers from bars to a local strip club. Yeah, there's probably a lot of DNA in this thing. Let's look at the hood. It is your typical 454 Turbo 400 deal, which means that when you go down the road, you know, it works just fine, but the mileage is not great. It gets about 5, and it's loud. If you're trying to go 80 miles an hour down the highway, she's tacking pretty good, and it's loud. But we're about to fix that. We're in Arizona. We're at my friend Matt's place. He's been storing this thing for me, and today we changed the transmission. Matt Ringer's shop is cooler than most. Morning, Matt.
Morning. How you guys doing?
Good. We got an LS swapped 34, Nova, a forklift, oh look, a Grand National, a Chevelle, out back a Dodge Power Wagon, like a G-Body wagon, and miles of desert, which is beautiful when it's not 100 degrees out. It's going to be hot today, but this massive shop is the perfect place to work on a redneck limo. The Grand National's for sale, isn't it?
Yep.
All right, you folks at home, if you want a Grand National, this one's pretty sweet. This is Patrick.
Nice to meet you guys.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Patrick was kind enough to drive this thing from, was it Redding?
Yeah, Redding.
How many miles?
Oh, shoot. I mean, we went through Ely, Nevada to Prescott, so it was a lot further than it could have been. It was about, I think when I put it into Google Maps, about 20 hours. So it was quite a ways, and it was an episode of Roadkill for sure.
All right, well, let's change the transmission. I just got stung by a scorpion. Hurt. Oh my god. That hurt. So how bad is that?
It's going to be very, very bad for him in just a second.
Oh! Mine feels mostly okay. It feels like a bee sting, but now I'm tripping because I'm like, how many other ones are under this truck?
God dang, man.
Wow, that's a first. All right, stung by a scorpion. Okay, here's where we're at. Transmission crossmember is loose, drive shaft is undone, tranny floor lines are undone. Now we need to disconnect the bell housing bolt, support the transmission, and then gently get it out. And then we can uncrate our new transmission. 3 people. Goes a lot faster with 3 people. Look at that. That is a Turbo 400. This works perfectly fine too. Just doesn't have overdrive. Patrick, you want to hold the camera? All the other things. All right, so Gearstar Level 4 4L80E. I've worked with Gearstar for over a decade. Pretty much put their trans in anything I need, where I need overdrive, I need efficiency, I need a trans that isn't going to blow up when I'm doing burnouts. This is it. This is a towing transmission. It's made specifically for this truck. American-made company, American-made components. The best part about using Gearstar is they are going to dyno your transmission after it's built. And if you have any questions, you're going to talk to the guy that actually built the transmission.
4L80E level 3 with a 13-inch billet converter in it. This is an operational test of the transmission. We have already performed an endurance test, putting over 100 miles on the unit. Over here on the main control panel, you can see the pressure gauges. Top left is line pressure, bottom right is cooler pressure. Down here is cooler flow at over 1 gallon per minute. Over here on the main status screen, we're currently in 3rd gear checking lockup. Note the gear ratio on the right-hand side of the screen. You can see that ratio changing as the transmission goes in and out of lockup. On the top left of the screen is the main line pressure. Line pressure is excellent. Shift points and shift feel are beautiful. This is another outstanding transmission by Gearstar Performance. And we thank Mike Finnegan at Motor Trend for being a customer of Gearstar.
And normally when you order these, they come with a really great transmission cooler. They come with everything you need to install it. So this is a low car shift lever. And actually, is this the dipstick? This might be a low car dipstick. Yeah, this is a low car dipstick. You'll see it already has a yank billet converter installed. It already has the fluid in the converter, so there's just 5 more additional quarts of training fluid included with it, because that's the exact right amount you need to make sure she's full once it's installed. This is our transmission controller. And there is our beautiful transmission with the isolator we need for the cross member and the bolts. Like, it's everything. It's literally everything we need to do this job. The only thing we're going to be missing is we need to adapt the factory column shift of our square body to the trans, because this truck originally had a 3-speed. The indicator's not going to be right. We're not going to have the right amount of travel, but it's an aftermarket part we can buy to adapt the two things. It's no big deal. We're also going to have to shorten our drive shaft, because as you're going to see here shortly, the 4L80E is a longer transmission. It's a 4-speed instead of a 3-speed, and it has an electronic lockup converter. So we are going to gain overdrive and a lockup converter. It's going to reduce our RPM as we cruise down the road. We're going to get better gas mileage. Truck's going to run quieter. A lot of good reasons to make this swap. And with as expensive as gas is right now, adding overdrive to an older vehicle is a lot cheaper than going out and buying a newer vehicle trying to save gas. It's basically a Turbo 400 with lockup and overdrive.
Let me grab this.
But it should be real close in size.
31.5 inches.
Okay.
From front of the bell housing back to the snout. We're going to be right here. 28.
How about the mounting point?
Good question. 27.5 to the rear, so we're going to be about 27 to the center of the bolt.
Okay.
And we are going to be 30.5 to the center of the bolt.
Okay. So that's
Right
about
on
how far you got to move your cross member back.
Yeah, 30.25.
So about 3 inches difference where the cross member needs to be located, which is no big deal. You can pretty much just slide it back in the chassis. And then physically, the pan, the bottom half of this thing, is a little longer, a little wider. But in general, it's a pretty easy swap because it's not much taller. And
yeah, the bell housing looks about the same, girth.
yeah.
Well, like they say,
She's a beaut.
Nothing holds us back but fear and common sense.
That's right. So we might as well keep going there.
May as well.
You guys at home are going to notice that we did not support the back of the motor with anything because the exhaust is still hooked up.
It's 6-bolt.
And, oh yeah, there we go. The exhaust is still connected, so it's kind of holding the motor. But by not supporting it, the motor drooped a little bit, which helped us get the trans out.
Right.
All right. Yeah, we should be good.
Not bad. Should get the hood open so we can get this dipstick out. Or maybe I'll do this. There we go.
Problem solved. Yeah.
We dig in? Something like this.
On there?
Okay, it's free. Go ahead and pull it out. Alright, let me grab that long bolt. Now I need a short one. Thank you. Okay, now let's put your...
We'll tighten this one up.
Yep. Alright, go for it.
We're doing this by hand so we don't break ears off and stuff.
Gotcha.
With the air, it goes so fast we break something and not know it.
That's a good way to know whether we're cross-threading it or not. Still looking for scorpions. Still in here going,
A brand new train.
dude, I'm like in here paranoid now.
That was weird.
Alright, that one is almost home.
Oh, his home.
Alright, let's jump on the top one now. I don't know if you guys can hear me over the fan, but this is where the cross member used to mount. We've now slid it back to here, and we needed obviously to put new holes in the frame. This is a really thick frame. It's about 1/4 inch thick, and rather than try to drill it, looks like Matt just grabbed the plasma cutter and started some holes here. Maybe he's going to finish them with the drill, but I don't know. We'll see. I have been over here eyeballing the wiring and what we're going to need to do to make our carbureted big block Chevy, non-computer controlled, work our computer controlled transmission. This is a kit. It's called Quick 4 from usshift.com. Real simple to wire. Basically, it's a box that you'll mount in the cab of the truck, not the engine compartment. That goes in the side of the transmission. That's controlling the solenoids and whatnot. This is speed input and output on the side of the case. Basically, you're going to give this power and ground, and then we need to, and we won't be able to do it today because we're missing it, we need to hook a throttle position sensor to our carburetor linkage so that when you change throttle position, this thing knows it and then gives you the appropriate amount of line pressure inside the transmission. And we're missing the throttle position sensor stuff. We can put this in, but we cannot finish it, unfortunately, which is a bummer, but it happens. And we weren't going to be done anyway because our drive shaft needs to get shortened because it's now too long. So we'll get this thing 90% of the way there, and then our road test will happen, you know, at a later date. But I'm still stoked because when we do road test, overdrive, lockup converter, quieter truck going down the highway. I want to hear the exhaust. I don't want to hear the engine. You know, I don't want to hear valve train. I want to hear Flowmasters, whatever else is under this thing.
We just elongated the holes, all we did there. Okay. We made a small hole there because we want to open it up with a die grinder, so.
Have I ever told you how much I hate white zip ties? First off, they always seem to break. You know, they just don't seem strong. And while I appreciate the spacing and the care with which someone went to install these with pretty similar spacing, they left the little tags on them. These slice the hell out of you. This is painful. Like, who does this? You know who does that? Somebody who wants to inflict pain on the next person to work on the car. Not cool. If you care at all about your fellow man, you get some flush cut pliers like these ones from Snap-on, and when you cut these things, you cut them flush, or as close as you can get them. Let me just save this. Go away. Alright, beautiful. Alright, this is a grommet that was already here. All we did was slice it so that we could get our wires through it and around it, and then we can silicone it back in place. This is wrong. It's just wrong. Look at that. Look at that. Just waiting to make somebody bleed. The next person to work on it. Just going to be bleeding because somebody half-assed cut these zip ties. Look at that. Not only are they the wrong color, they're bound to kill you. There we There we go. Re-employing an existing grommet. Slice it in half, put it in there, go back in there and hit it with some silicone. It'll stay in place. The wires won't chafe on the metal of the firewall. It's all good. All right, everybody. Let's go over the wiring. This is our Quick 4 transmission controller. It's got 4 plugs. This one is the main plug. This will give you ignition, power, ground, and a whole bunch of inputs and outputs, which are basically optional. This is the transmission harness. This operates the solenoids. This one here will do your speed indication. It plugs into the 2 plugs on the driver's side of the transmission. The one at the front is the speed coming out of the turbine. The one at the rear is the speed coming out of the trans. And then this plug here, also to the transmission, that is your gear indicator. So, rather than put a hole in the floor of the truck, which I don't like doing, we went through a grommet in the firewall, which meant we burned up a lot of the wire harness in terms of its length, so there are not a lot of options for this. Now this needs to be in the cab of the truck, not in the engine compartment. It is neither watertight, nor is it really good for it to be in a high heat environment. Plus, this is the second version of this thing. It has a digital readout in here and a multifunction knob here, so having access to it is good. Since the wires are so short now, what I'm going to do is hide it under the carpet behind the dash, and when I need to use it, I'll untuck it and use it. But once the transmission tune is, you know, pretty well set, which it comes with a base tune that you might want to tweak based on tire size and gear ratio. Once that's set, this thing can go away. It's not something I'm going to look at every day. I'm going to glance at it every now and again just to make sure, you know, the line pressure is good and there's no error codes. But in general, every day, not looking at that. So, these wires are all plugged in. Most of these wires I'm not going to use except for, as I said, ignition, power, and then battery ground. The ground needs to go directly to the battery, not sheet metal, not the frame rail, you know, not anything else you're tempted to hook this to, straight to the battery. And our battery is here and there. We have 2 of them and an isolator. Not totally sold on how this thing is wired. There's actually a switch under the dash that clicks the isolator, and I don't know that they're both charging off the alternator at the same time. Someday I'll get into that, but not today. Anyway, there's the grommet and the firewall that we went through that had the speedo cable and some brake wiring going through it. So we just split the grommet, ran the wires through it, and then siliconed it back together. We're close right now. Patrick and Matt Ringer are mounting our transmission cooler, which is a really nice derail cooler with a puller fan on it. And they're mounting it just outside of the frame rail, but inside of the rocker using the factory floorboard mount. And by factory, I mean the aftermarket factory that stretched this thing and made these awesome floorboards, running boards, whatever you want to call them. The running boards are so badass that I picture this truck towing my drag boat to the launch ramp with like 4 people dressed as Secret Service hanging off the sides at all times. I feel like that's the move. Or strippers hanging off the sides, whatever. You know, whatever you're feeling like on that Sunday. Maybe it's Halloween, everyone's dressed up, I don't know. That's neither here nor there. We'll worry about that later. But for now, let's finish the wiring. Are we powering up? We are powering up. Nice. Okay. That is good news. That means that is ready to go. And we are mostly almost officially done with this install. Mostly. We need a drive shaft. We need a rod to connect our factory steering column shifter down to our transmission, and then put the fluid in it and go test drive it. And you'll see that on a future episode of Finnegan's Garage. Thanks for hanging out.